Hey class, welcome to week 6. We are entering the final 3 weeks of our class. So let's give an overview of the activities for this week. This week we're focused on finally learning about the data collection process and data analysis related to quantitative research. Remember, that collects numeric data. Next week we'll be focused on qualitative research, how to collect and analyze qualitative data. Of course, you're also building your final research proposal even as we're learning about how to collect and analyze data. So I realize there's a bit of a building it as you go. So I appreciate your effort on the previous 3 capstone projects. Honestly, the projects are tightening up. They're looking really good. So from this week on, it's going to feel more like you're refining and editing what you've done previously, and you're putting it all together into what will be your final research proposal. So let's talk a little bit about activities for this week. You'll notice in the learning activities that you'll read chapter 8. There's a PowerPoint attachment that many of you will probably glance at, but you'll notice, like most of the chapters, this textbook does a really good job of walking through the process of building different parts of your research proposal and gives good examples for you that you're already using, and I can tell in your writing. So thanks for that. It really is enough just to stick with reading the chapter, but I've also included some supplemental videos. I know that maybe a little less than half of you are watching those, but this week especially, if you need some help, especially with writing that methods chapter, that chapter 3, the methods section of your final proposal, when you get to the homework 3 instructions, that's where the videos could come in handy for some of you. So there's one video where I talk about how to build a quantitative survey instrument and how to collect and analyze survey data. And then in the other video, it talks about how to analyze statistics, quantitative statistics, descriptive and inferential types of statistics. So read those videos, watch those videos if you're feeling kind of stuck in writing the methods portion of your homework 3 assignment. So let's talk about some homework 3 instructions. Homework 3 involves building your research proposal by integrating your 3 previous capstone assignments. So let's look at the details here. What you'll submit this weekend is basically 4 chapters. The first chapter will be the introduction that you established in the first couple weeks of class, where you introduced the topic, you provided an overview of findings related to the topic, as well as why the topic is important for your particular area of kinesiology or for kinesiology practitioners and professionals in general. So this is 1 to 2 pages, as you see. I tried to be detailed on what the expectations are and what to include in each chapter. But you'll notice you can just follow the subheading. So chapter 1, introduction, is centered, and then the subheadings are left justified, where you give a background. So anything in bold you should include in your submission for homework 3 assignment. Okay? Then after a page or 2, you get into the literature review that you built a couple weeks ago as well. So this is a separate chapter where the first paragraph is an overview of major findings, kind of major themes from your research articles and your reference page. And then you'll build specific research sub-themes, and you'll use those as subheadings throughout your literature review. If you'll notice, I'm looking for about 6 to 7 pages of discussion related to the major findings, the major types of data collection related to your topic. And then that should funnel down, as you did previously, into a deficiency or a statement of the problem that comes out of your discussion of the literature. So this is what you've already done, but now for homework number 3, you're going to refine that previous draft. You're going to maybe add some new sources that you found over the last couple weeks, and you're going to edit. And for a few of you, you integrated sources really well. In other words, you made more general statements and you started to organize the themes that you found in the research really well. But for others, I made suggestions like, please integrate more sources into your discussion. Please organize your sources according to subheadings in previous drafts of your capstone assignments. So now in this homework number 3, I'm going to want to see that you addressed those comments. Okay? Please reach out if you have questions about that. But in chapter 2, you'll funnel from a general discussion of the research down to a specific problem, and then you'll list your specific research questions or hypotheses like you did in a previous homework assignment. But now they come into this integrated draft of your research proposal. Chapter 3 is a continuation of the method section that you submitted last weekend. So I know I'm going to be reading those and giving you feedback even as you edit and you resubmit an updated draft of the method. So first I would say, you'll probably spend the least amount of time refining this method section since you're still waiting on feedback from me, but don't wait for that feedback. You can still, if your plans have changed and maybe your research design has changed, or you thought you might use a survey, but now you might, I don't know, use an experimental design, or vice versa, you can still make those changes and edits even as you wait for my feedback on last week's assignment. So also, after you put the data collection instruments and procedures subheading in your paper, I want you to start thinking a little more closely about any data collection instruments that you might use. If you're going to really continue with an experimental design, how will you collect data on your dependent variables? If you're measuring a performance variable, how specifically will you collect data on that variable, right? If you're going to do a descriptive survey design, what specific survey will you use? And then this is where you talk about the validity and the reliability of the instrument and how that instrument will help you best measure your variables. So spend a little more time fleshing out and giving more detail about how you'll potentially collect data and what instruments you'll use. And then the analysis plan is probably still quite rough in your minds because we're just now covering Chapter 8, which discusses quantitative data analysis. And then next week in Chapter 9, we'll cover qualitative data analysis. So again, for those, well, read ahead if you're actually thinking about collecting qualitative data, but just know that next week we're going to cover that in more detail. But for now, for those who are going to do either survey or experimental research, read in Chapter 8 about the basic ways of analyzing your numeric data once you get it. So we call that descriptive statistics, where you summarize general trends in the data, the average score, the mean, the median, and the standard deviation, how much scores differ on average from each other. So there's descriptive statistics, and then there's inferential statistics. Remember, inferential statistics are sort of the next level checks for either relationships among variables, we call that a correlation, or differences among groups based on your treatment, or based on their responses to a survey, if you're going to collect survey data. So read Chapter 8, and then I would recommend watching that video that I uploaded about quantitative data analysis if you would still like more examples. So between the textbook Chapter 8 and my videos, you'll have a good starting point to refine this section of Chapter 3, which is the analysis plan. You'll also bring back in ethical considerations. Remember from, I think, week 3 when we talked about the ethics discussion and you got certification through the NIH. Bring back some basic concepts for how you will minimize risk to your participants and how you will receive their consent and even how you'll seek IRB approval before the study begins. So that's a brief paragraph before you finish with Chapter 4. And Chapter 4 is just the references. So make sure your references are in APA format, that they're updated, and that you have at least 15 peer-reviewed sources. So right now, all of you are on track for that. And this will by far be the easiest portion of the assignment, where you just list the references for me. Okay, so a couple final thoughts on homework number 3. First, follow the guidelines in the instructions fairly closely, and follow the outline as I present it, and make sure to cover most of those subheadings that are listed. But I would also say there is some flexibility with the titles of those subheadings. If you want to call it differently, like sample and participants, you can change the wording around. I'm okay with you not following it as some cookie cutter exactly in that format, but I wanted to give you a format to guide the building of this paper. So there's some flexibility there. Especially like in the literature review, you get to name your subheadings, right? You get to organize major areas or discussions in the research in the way that you think best represents the topic and what has been previously examined or known from the previous research. So there's some flexibility with those titles. One more thing, for those considering qualitative data collection and analysis, you think maybe in-depth interviews or observations might be part or all of the way that you collect data. I'll put some videos posted in next week, week 7, on qualitative methods and analysis. You can go ahead and take a peek. And then also in this week, week 6, I've attached some examples of how to write a qualitative method section. So if you are considering methods, approaches to research, take a look at that and borrow the language that I use for this homework number 3 assignment. Feel free to even, yes, you can plagiarize me, cut and paste that language when you're building the methods, chapter 3, the methods section of homework number 3. So use that as needed. And then finally, remember, you should be just integrating your previous 3 capstone assignments. So in that way, this is kind of the fun part. It's a refining part. And congratulations to you for doing the hard work in the previous few weeks. Now you get to refine. So have a great week. Also remember, you have a quiz. Both assignments will be due this Saturday by midnight, but as I've been doing, I don't mind pushing to Sunday by noon. So I'm just going to say Sunday by noon if you need a little extra time. But feel free to submit it by Saturday at midnight as well. So you have a little flexibility there. Please reach out. I'm happy to chat or respond through email if I can be of assistance. Okay? Thanks again for your great work. Have a good week. Talk to you later.